What's up, guys? On today's FrugalBC episode, I want to talk about Coinbase's new initial public offering and what it means for you and for the cryptocurrency market. What's up, guys? FrugalBC here. Remember to hit that like and subscribe button. Helps us out a lot. Helps you see all the latest content that you can get right in your feed. So make sure to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button. Really appreciate that. I'm FrugalBC. Today I want to talk to you about Coinbase and its IPO. Now, what is Coinbase? For those of you who don't know, Coinbase is an online exchange for cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Algorand, Cosmos, Ethereum, Stellar Lumens. The list goes on. There's a lot of them. But the main one is Bitcoin. Why? So what just happened? Well, Coinbase is the first exchange to ever, and it's probably I think it's one of the biggest exchanges right now. It's the first one to be offered on the stock market. So that happened Wednesday. It went up as high as I saw the debut. It looked like it was set at 250 when I looked on my Robinhood app earlier in the day before trading started. Apparently, it got up to as high as $429 a share price, and it kind of went back down. But that was like that represented $100 billion market cap, which is pretty impressive. That's basically it settled at about 86 billion by the end of the day, which is still quite a bit. That's a very good market. Now this happens as Bitcoin happens to be on a record high. It's hit the $64,000 mark. It's been fun to watch that rise. As you know, I own a small amount of cryptocurrency. I've been increasing that, and it's been increasing on its own. My balance has increased just because all these coins keep going up, and I don't know if there's. I think it's going to continue to go up. There's going to be cycles where it's going to dip, but every time I thought, well, surely it's hit its max by now, it's kept going because it keeps coming more valuable, and you're still looking at a very early stage of this brand new thing called cryptocurrency, which is now about 10 years old, but it's still pretty new. Now, so the CEO, Brian Armstrong, I looked up, he had a really great Twitter thread this morning. I want to talk about some of the highlights on that thread, but if you punch his name into Twitter, I would recommend reading it. It's really interesting. So he was an employee of Airbnb, and in 2010 he read Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper about Bitcoin, and he was an employee of Airbnb. He started building this thing. He had this idea for Coinbase. I think he called it BitBank at first before he realized how there's a lot of baggage that comes with calling yourself a bank. So he called it Coinbase instead. He kind of built it himself, the first version, on his nights and weekends, coding it in the background. And by the way, everyone thought this was a terrible idea. He launched in 2012, so people at the time just thought Bitcoin was useless. They thought there was no market for it. It was going to be just kind of a novelty in the history of money, and I think right now we've learned that it's anything but. At one point they moved into a small loft in San Francisco. They had they had all these employees. They had so many employees that compared to their space that people were working in laundry rooms and in the hallways and just wherever they could fit them in, because they grew so fast. And it really blew up around 2017, 2018. When a lot of initial coin offerings were happening, that drove up the price of Bitcoin because it just increased interest in cryptocurrencies in general. And it just kept blowing up and kept going, and they've worked as hard as they could to make a good platform for people who want to buy Bitcoin. And I think it was significant because it gave folks without a huge amount of experience with computers and technology the ability to just go buy this thing. When I first looked into cryptocurrencies, I was like, oh, this is cool. I should probably get in on this. And then you would try to figure out how to buy it, and it's like you start reading through these instructions and your eyes would glaze over. It's like, I have to do all that just to buy this stupid thing? I could see why people thought it might not be that useful, because in the beginning it was so unuseful. It was so user unfriendly. I mean, from a UX standpoint, it was a really terrible product, and it kind of still is in a lot of ways. The way I've heard it explained is now what we're seeing in the last couple of years, and we're going to see more of, is that the layers on top of Bitcoin are getting built, and Ethereum and other chains, and that's where it gets really useful. But it is good as a store of value, and I like to think of it as digital real estate. It's kind of a hedge against the dollar. But I won't get into too much of that. What I will get is, what does it mean? I want to talk about what does it mean for Coinbase to be publicly traded. And I want to frame this in my dad and I have been talking about cryptocurrency a lot. I think he's still kind of a skeptic, but he was interested in it. But just the other day, he said how he read an article about how Bitcoin was going to go to zero. I think that's ridiculous. I think you're going to keep seeing these articles, but they're stupid because that's like saying the stock market is going to go to zero. Like, is it theoretically possible? Yeah. I mean, it's not impossible, but it's highly, highly, highly improbable. And that's what we have at Bitcoin at this point in the future. And why is that? Well, at this point, way too many institutions and powerful people within those institutions own Bitcoin and have a stake in Bitcoin. Like, far too many for it to ever go to zero. Like, it's kind of untouchable at this point. Like, I mean, I think if the U.S. government tried to say, yeah, Bitcoin's done and you can't use it in the U.S. and it has to be eradicated, that would probably not happen because they would get so much pressure from the people who fund their campaigns. I mean, this is why Wall Street always gets, this is why Wall Street gets its way, because they fund the politicians. And when the politicians are out of office, they get enormous speaking fees to come give speeches that I doubt anyone really listens to very carefully. Why? Because that's a signal that if you play ball with us, you get paid. So I know I'm going into, it's not even conspiracy, though. This happens in plain sight. Every politician does it. So it's not even a conspiracy. It's literally happening out in the open. Anyway, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too much. The point is, the people who tend to get their way policy-wise, which generally means Wall Street, they're invested in Bitcoin now. They're not skeptics anymore. I mean, there still are some, but there's enough people making enough money off of Bitcoin that they're not ever going to let that happen. So I think Bitcoin's pretty safe, and it's only becoming more entrenched. People are finding uses for it. Some of the other coins I have, like Electronium, people are buying their phone minutes on. I don't see any mechanism for this to lose value. All the signs point to an increasing value. I think it's a good investment. I wouldn't put all my money or even most of my money, but I do put some of my investments into it. Not investment advice, just saying what I do. But I really think the idea that it's going to go to zero is just bug. It's not true. And with this ICO, or with this IPO, excuse me, now they're entrenched in the stock market, and I think you're going to see more of this. Coinbase is the first, but it's not going to be the only. So what you're going to have now is you have a company that's basically built on cryptocurrencies, publicly trading in the stock market that we all know and maybe love. So I just don't see. Now the two systems are really starting to become interconnected, and I don't see any mechanism for Bitcoin to ever go to zero. So that's my take on it. I just wanted to give an update on the Coinbase scenario because I just think it's so significant. I think it's a really big deal. I don't think enough people are making a big enough deal out of it because I think it's really significant, and that's what I wanted to tell you about. So thanks for watching. Hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Very much appreciate everyone who's subscribed so far, and we'll see you next time.